know you couldn't handle this. Everyone who battled me, they falling like an avalanche. Got them falling back to back, take them all just hand in hand. Y'all going home, so better pack your bags. I'm a heavy hitter, come take a sip of this potion. It float like a butterfly, I'm floating like the ocean. Battle cries of music to my ears, I'm the composer. Y'all can never hurt me, got you wilting like the roses.
When we first meet Denji, he's not much of anything really. He's totaling up how much money he's made from small, odd jobs to selling parts of his body. It all totals up, bringing his debt to 38,040,000 yen, or in our terms, 276,000 United States dollars. This is an unfathomable amount of money that only very few people will ever see in their life, much less a 16-year-old kid who has to pay it off by himself. It was likely that Denji wouldn't have ever paid off his debt. Even the job that earned him the most moolah, as he calls it, devil hunting, only netted him about 400,000 yen. That of course doesn't count him for his debt, interest, and finder's fee, leaving him with only 70,000 yen for himself. But that's not all, as Denji still has to pay off other people and pay bills, which that only leaves him about 1,800 yen, or 13 bucks. Denji still has to eat, so the only thing he can afford for the day is a single slice of bread. When removing the light-hearted personality and the cute chainsaw dog, you have one of the darkest chapters in the entirety of Chainsaw Man. Denji's entire childhood has been weighed down by this massive burden of debt, so that's kind of all he's ever known. His burden doesn't leave him time to do things he wants to do, like eating jam on a bread, having a relationship, playing video games in his own room, or even just sleeping in a normal bed. Even if his debt were to suddenly disappear, he probably wouldn't have been able to achieve any of these goals due to having a hereditary heart disease that was only getting worse. Denji comes from a place of hopelessness that nobody would ever want to be in. Until...
Y'all must have gone and caught a bad case of dementia, cause all of this talk about the best in LA I ain't mentioned.
The most common fantasy for most young people is to be swept off their feet and carried away from their normal everyday lives to something much more exciting and greater. This usually comes in two forms. Number one being superpowers. Life can be especially tough, and sometimes so hopeless that you might just want to fly away from it, run from it, disappear from it, hide from it, or swing away from it. This is so common that it's a fairly used trope in a lot of anime and manga. Take for example, Attack on Titan. The prologue in the Battle for Trost arc can be hard to watch as tons of helpless people get eaten alive by these horrifying abominations. Even after a training arc, which is usually when the characters rise up and defeat the evil, they still get brutally slaughtered. It's not until the protagonist, Eren Yeager, miraculously transforms into one of these monsters does a glimmer of hope appear. In this case, it's when Denji and Pochita are sliced into pieces, being left to rot inside of a dumpster. But as a last-ditch effort, Pochita merges with Denji, making him into a devil/human hybrid. This gives him the ability to not only have one of the best character designs ever, but to be able to cut nearly everything in his path, including the ability to cut himself out of the life he was living. But of course, he can't do this all just by himself. The second most common daydream people have is somebody showing up one day and bringing them to someplace new. Either somebody who feels special to you, or once was special. This could be a real person opening themselves up to you to let you into their exciting life, or your favorite character taking you from your world to theirs. In Denji's case, it's the pretty yet terrifying Miss Makima. To Denji, Makima is an angel, sent down to carry him to a better life. When she finds him after he first transformed into his devil form, barely alive due to blood loss. As he's falling, she wraps her arms around him, making it the first time he's ever been hugged by a girl. She offers him two choices, either be put down as a devil, or live for her as a dog. As long as Denji does what he's told, he gets to live the life that he's always wanted. To anybody in Denji's position, this deal is a bargain. He gets all the things he wants, eating jam on sliced bread, his own room, and his own bed, all except for one thing, which is a romantic relationship. Makima knows this very well, and she always uses it to her advantage. She dangles the promise of romance in front of him like a carrot on a stick, getting him to do whatever she wants. This happens multiple times throughout the series, with things like Makima taking Denji to the movies, sharing a lollipop, or just complimenting him in general, tugging the figurative and literal strings of Denji's heart in whatever direction she needs, always making sure he doesn't get too close to her. Denji can't help but play along, because she's giving him the life that he's always dreamed of. Still though, he can't help but want more. Makima recognizes this and decides to give him that chance. If you can kill the gun devil, I'll grant you one wish. She has not given Denji what he wants, but a way to obtain it by killing the most powerful devil in the world. Very tall order, but one that Denji is willing to overcome in order to get his blank check. Of course though, this was just one way for Makima to manipulate Denji. But if Denji is going to go through with killing the gun devil, then he's going to need some more friends, or more accurately, a family. Enter Aki Hayakawa, part-time devil hunter and full-time buzzkill. Aki is the very definition of by the book. He does what he does to a T. He never questions orders, and most of all, he hates devils with a fiery passion. Makes sense why his job is killing devils, but it's also why he's so good at it. For some reason, Makima thinks that he's a perfect fit for Denji. Somebody who rarely does what he's told, always questions orders, and is pretty much a devil. Even more bizarre, Makima wants them to live together. To nobody's surprise, they don't get along well. Denji upends Aki's rather calm and quiet apartment lifestyle with loud and messy everything. Aki is regularly scolding Denji for his habits and his sympathy towards devils. Denji couldn't really care less though. He sees Aki as somebody who's still chasing his dream, while Denji gets to live the normal life of his dreams. That is until...
Alright, on your knees, mortal scum! Including so-called partners! You stand in the presence of power!
Power is somebody who rarely does what she's told, always questions orders, and is pretty much a devil. She's everything Denji is, but acts like a 4-year-old with a megaphone. She always wants to be the loudest one in the room, leading to Denji always making sure he's at least a little bit above her in maturity level, especially given that they're both partners. This means that in the end, Denji is always left cleaning up her messes. At first, Denji wasn't a big fan of this, especially when Power tried to feed him to the Bat Devil to get her cat back. Slowly but surely, bonding over killing devils and messing with Aki, they form sort of a big sibling, little sibling relationship, with Denji being the big brother who has to watch out for his little sister. This really shines through after the International Assassin arc, when Power was confronted with the Darkness Devil. Afterwards, she was so scared of it that she couldn't even eat properly. Denji was the one who took care of her and reassured her that she was safe. Even when Makima had asked Denji if he wanted to go on a vacation with just the two of them, he declined because he knew that Power needed him. Denji and Power's dynamic is my favorite so far in Chainsaw Man, and I highly doubt that'll change. The only thing close is Aki and Denji. As I mentioned before, Denji and Aki are polar opposites in terms of personality. They do have two things in common. They have to clean up after Power, and they both had some really messed up stuff happen to them. I don't know why I say had, because a lot of messed up stuff still happens in part 1, but they both were able to be there for each other. Denji taught Aki how to lighten up and have fun. Aki was the one person that Denji could be serious around. One of my favorite panels in Chainsaw Man is when Denji, Aki, and Power all go on a family trip. Every year, Aki goes and visits the place where his family was buried. It's not a pleasant experience, since it digs up a lot of very painful memories. This time, he had to take Power and Denji with him though. He wasn't very happy about it, but in the end, he was glad that he did. This time, instead of solely focusing on all the horrible things that happened to him in the past, he was able to look at the future and see what he had to live for. After Power fell asleep, Denji and him were able to just talk and enjoy the moment with each other, something neither of them got to do very often with anybody. Denji taught Aki how to be happy again, and Denji had another person in his little family. This is one of the things that began to steer him away from the controlling clutches of Makima. The next is somebody we know all too well.
Come stroll on the sands of the lands of the earth, going life is the goal, pay the toll within.
On one lone rainy day, Denji's walking around patrolling the city. He decides to take a break from the rain in a phone booth, before he's interrupted by a young girl with long black hair covering her face, also seeking shelter from the rain. She's odd, telling Denji that he looks like her dog who had passed away. Denji decides that he wants to impress her by beginning to force something up, and it turns out to be the flower that he ate earlier. She thinks that he did a magic trick, not realizing where the flower came from. She thanks Denji, and he finally gets a good look at her face. Meet Reize, and I don't think I need to tell you where this is going. Reize thinks Denji is hilarious, inviting him to the cafe where she works at. She's a pretty girl, so Denji follows. Reize is a loud, rebellious teenage girl. Denji is a loud, rebellious teenage boy. So these two would obviously hit it off. Denji goes to eat lunch every day at her cafe, despite the food not really being that good. The more and more they hang out, Denji begins to realize that this girl likes him. He also realizes that he's beginning to fall for her. But he doesn't describe it like that. Instead, he sees Reize as somebody who is trying to steal his heart away from Makima, showing just how much of a grip Makima has on him mentally. Even with that mindset, Denji still comes back to see her every day because unlike Makima, Reize doesn't constantly dangle a romantic relationship with Denji in front of him like a carrot on a stick. Instead, Reize actually enjoys spending time with Denji and is glad that he comes to the cafe. Denji notes that if Reize is trying to steal his heart from Makima, it's working. One day, Reize invites Denji to sneak into her high school after closing hours. Well, Denji's not that stupid, so he obviously agrees to. Late at night, they are walking through the halls, and all Denji can do is feel guilty about how much he's enjoying spending time with Reize. He worries that if he does, he'll be unfaithful to Makima. When they're trying off in one of the classrooms, Reize asks him whether he would rather be the town mouse or the country mouse. It's one of Aesop's fables, a story comparing two mice. One who lives in a small, quiet town that lives a quiet life, but doesn't get to enjoy any of the fancy attractions that the big city can offer. The city mouse enjoys a large life, living it to the fullest, but is surrounded by dangerous cats and dogs that could very well eat him. It's basically an allegory, saying that in life you can either choose death by monotony or danger. In this case, they represent two choices Denji has. Reize is the town. She can provide him with care and protection from any harm, since she's away from all the danger, but also all of the joys that Denji has yet to experience. Makima is the city. She can give him every single thing that he wants: amazing food, family, friends, and the illusion of a relationship with her. But Denji is far from safe. In fact, the strongest devil known to man has it out for him. He wants to be the town mouse. It's what his heart tells him. But the more and more time he spends with Reize, the more and more appetizing the country becomes. Now he sees two girls in his head, Makima and Reize. Who does he pick? Well, he needs to choose quickly. The night Denji and Reize go to a festival and do all the fun things you do during a festival. Alone in the middle of a fireworks show, Reize asks Denji to quit his job and run away with her. Run away with her and live the life of a country mouse. He doesn't know what to do. He just sits there in silence as Reize holds his hand. She promises to keep him safe and happy as long as he's with her. Denji could live the normal teenage life in a quiet town and go to school with Reize, but still he can't. He can't leave behind Makima, even though he really wants to go, but he just can't. Then Reize shuts him up and wins him over. Denji is now one step closer to cutting the strings that Makima has been puppeteering him with, and they would have entirely gone away had he run. If he did. Because while they're kissing, Reize starts biting Denji's tongue. Not in a sexy way, but in a more violent way. As it turns out, Reize was an orphan who was forced to fuse with the Bomb Devil by the Soviet Union. She was part of a group of kids who were trained up from birth into living weapons. Everything she had done up until this point was just to get closer to Denji and steal his heart both figuratively and literally. She faked everything. Even being able to blush on command was the result of military training. As the two fight it out, Denji is still in denial that she didn't like him. Even when he, in the end, comes out victorious, he still spares her life because Denji liked her. Even if it was fake, she showed him that a romantic relationship doesn't have to be like what he has with Makima. He can actually feel a real connection with the person and find solace that they love being around one another. Denji extends the same offer Reize had given him, to run away to the country. Though Reize can't. She's just like Denji. She has something tying her to her current life, and in this case, it's the Soviet Union, which probably wouldn't take kindly to her running off. As she walks away, Denji says that he'll be at the cafe, waiting for her. What's surprising is that she actually does show up, because in the end, she did feel the same way. Maybe not romantically, but because she admired his willingness to abandon all of his ties and go live a happy life, hoping for a chance that she can do the same. Sadly, she doesn't actually make it to the cafe because on her way, the town mouse appears. Makima keeps Denji in the big city by killing Reize, the country mouse that would have taken him away. Reize bleeds out, looking at Denji through the window. The sad thing is that Denji never knew that Reize was planning on running away with him. Instead, all he'll ever think is that another person abandoned him, another person that he liked. Though she already had done her damage, she had helped pull Denji away from Makima.
The sides are chosen, the lines are drawn, the wheels are in motion, and the time has come. They got the power, the money, but it ain't enough.
Throughout the series, Denji has an odd, reoccurring dream. One where he's a little kid again, and walking down an alleyway. At the end of the alleyway is a tattered up, large door. Whenever he tries to open it, Pochita's voice behind it tells him not to. Then, the dream ends. He doesn't know what this dream means until one day he wakes up after Aki's gone to work. He hears somebody ringing the doorbell, thinking it's Aki. He goes to open it, but for some reason, the dream flashes in his head, telling him not to open it. Power wakes up and asks him why he hasn't opened. Then the phone starts ringing, and Denji answers. On the other end is Makima telling him that the Gun Devil had appeared, and they were almost able to defeat it, but it managed to escape into a hunter's corpse and became a fiend. Now it's answering his door. Denji thinks that Makima is just playing a prank on him. He opens the door to find the Gun Devil had taken over Aki's corpse. Aki couldn't bear to let Denji and Power die to the hands of the Gun Devil, especially since he didn't have much time left. He wanted to make sure that they could live long, happy lives. In a desperate attempt, he goes to Makima saying that he'll do anything, make any contract as long as it brings down the Gun Devil before it kills Denji or Power. Makima used her abilities to try and bring down the Gun Devil, but she let it inhabit Aki's body. The entire time Denji and the Gun Devil are fighting, he begs it to give Aki back, to give back a member of his first real family, the first person to provide him with a home, the first person who fed him, and the person who cared for him. But it's futile, as the person he's calling out to is no longer there. In the end, Denji has to kill him. Just like that, Aki is dead. Aki died. A few days later, Denji and Power got all of the money that Aki had been saving up, allowing them to buy a new apartment, food, video games, and such. In these few panels, we see Denji and Power's life alone look almost sad. Sure, they're still alive, but they both look so lonely despite being together, like they lost a piece of themselves that they'll never get back. One night, Denji goes out to buy some ice cream. He decides to snack on some on his way home. As he chomps down, he suddenly reminds himself of Aki and pukes out the ice cream. He blames himself for what happened. He thinks that he killed Aki, and he feels so guilty about it that he can't even eat. Every day since Aki's death, his life has been strange, as if it's just a blur. He wants life to go back to the way it was, but it can't, and he feels that it's his fault. He convinced himself that there was some other way, some way to turn the gun fiend back into Aki, but he was too stupid and couldn't figure it out at the time. He doesn't know if he can keep going. Then Makima appears. She's concerned that he'll catch a cold, so she invites him over to her place. When they get there, they're greeted by 7 massive Siberian huskies, Makima's huskies. Here, Denji's happy. Makima gives him some food, while he gets to play with the dogs. For the first time in a while, he can take his mind off of all the horrible stuff that he's gone through, and just laugh and smile. He wants this to last forever, so he asks Makima if he can cash in on the blank check he was offered for defeating the Gun Devil. His one wish? To be her dog. He doesn't want to have to think anymore about all the people that he's lost. Instead, Makima can think for him, so nobody else has to die. He has a few moments of bliss before the doorbell rings. Makima had called Power over, but then she says, "You open the door, because I'm going to kill her." Denji gets the same vision of the door, telling him not to open it, but Makima keeps telling him to. He's her dog now. He no longer has to think. All he has to do is obey her commands. Denji opens the door, saying that Makima is just playing a prank and everything is going to be alright. He opens it to see Power standing there, holding a cake that says, "Happy 17th birthday, Denji," before Makima kills her. It takes Denji a bit to realize what just happened. but Makima just brings him back into the apartment as if nothing happened. He asks her if this is all just a strange dream. There's no way that every single person he's ever cared about is gone. Makima's response for the first real time in the series is to show emotion by laughing. She laughs for an uncomfortably long time, saying that this is all her plan. Before Makima had met Denji, he was already happy, even though he was drowning in debt and had to eat out of dumpsters. The thing was that he had Pochita to keep him company, which to him made it seem all the more worth it. For some reason, Makima had been looking for Pochita, hoping to capture him alive. In the end, she doesn't find him, at least not alone, because he had become Denji's heart, making them a hybrid, and they will stay this way as long as Denji lives a normal life. That was the term of their contract. This was no good, because Makima doesn't want Denji, so how does she break the contract? By figuratively tearing Denji away from his heart. By making his life so miserable and sad that any happiness he ever has will eventually be taken away from him. She gives him a small family thought he in power, then she takes it away. She gives him the opportunity for love and a real happy relationship with Reize. Then she takes it away. She leaves him with nothing to fall back on, except her. Makima is all he has left. The next thing she does is make Denji feel guilty. Make him think that all of the bad things that have happened up until this point are his fault. If only he hadn't been himself, none of this would have happened. Every single morsel of pain and suffering he will endure for the rest of his life is nothing more than atonement for his sin of existing. This is the final link binding Denji to his heart, now making him and Pochita separate beings, giving Makima exactly what she wants. This gives her the ability to draw out Pochita's true form, Chainsaw Man. As it turns out, Pochita was a lot stronger than we gave him credit for. He is possibly the most powerful devil ever, with the ability to erase anything from existence just by eating it. The world of Chainsaw Man doesn't remember things like World War II, HIV, nuclear weapons, or Nazis, because they were erased by Chainsaw Man. Makima plans to use his power to shape the world into a perfect utopia, but first she needs to beat him in battle, which she does not by herself. She uses Chainsaw Man's nature to want to save anybody who calls out for help by making him take a blow in order to protect Kobeni. Luckily, Power was able to temporarily come back to life and hide from Makima. When Denji wakes up, he's no longer Chainsaw Man, but back to his normal self. Kishibe takes him and Kobeni to a safe bunker, away from where Makima can find them, for now. This gives Denji the chance to reflect on everything. He realizes that he was never free, not one moment of his life. He was truly like a dog, going from one handler to another. He was okay with locking his true feelings behind a door, but now it's come back to bite him. All he wanted was to live a happy, ignorant life, but maybe even that caused his downfall. Yet he still wants to make it out alive, because he's now a celebrity, with the entirety of Japan celebrating his existence. Maybe there's a chance that he can live free, if he's somehow able to take down Makima. When he tries to think of a way, all his head is filled with is happy experiences with Makima, and the things that she gave him. Even after all the horrible stuff she's done to him, Denji still loves her, since she was the first person to be nice to him, even if it was fake. Denji realizes something. The only reason she was nice to him was because she wanted Pochita. Maybe if she focuses on Pochita in a fight, then there's a possibility she won't notice him. So he takes Pochita out of his body and lets him grow again, as if he were Denji. Pochita is the one to take on Makima in the final battle, but in the end, Makima bests him. As she focuses on Pochita, Denji is able to sneak up behind Makima and slice her chest open with a chainsaw. Though that won't be enough to end her. Denji decides to become one with her. He chops up her body into little pieces, cooks her up, and eats her. How he sees it, Makima bears the weight of all the horrible things that she's done. so he hopes to bear that weight with her, even though he knows she was a horrible person and he needed to kill her. Even if she never even saw him or recognized him, he still loves her. But she's not gone for good, because the control devil will inevitably reincarnate. Luckily, Kishibe already found her, in the form of a little girl from China named Nayuta. Problem is that Denji is going to be the one to have to raise her, because Denji is the only one that Kishibe trusts. Later that night, Denji and Nayuta are asleep, and he has another vision of Pochita. Pochita tells Denji that all Makima wanted was to have an equal relationship with somebody, to have a family or friends. So that's what Denji needs to do for Nayuta, by giving her lots of hugs. In the end, Denji is free. He's free from Makima, and now he's not controlled by anybody. He can do what he wants without somebody always hovering above him. There's just the question of his grief. How will he overcome it? How will he overcome every single horrible thing that has happened to him? The thing is, that's up to him now. His newfound freedom means that he has no one to lean on to for help but himself. However he is going to act moving forward is his choice and his alone. Though maybe that'll be a good thing.